Recent statistics show bicycle deaths on Nevada roads have pretty much remained steady over the last few years, about 2 to 3% of all traffic-related deaths. And this is even as Nevada's growth rate is sixth highest in the nation. Serious injuries that don't cause death are another matter. More than 400,000 bike injuries nationwide led to emergency room care in 2009, with 28,000 of those requiring inpatient care, and that was nationwide. But what's it like in Nevada for bicyclists? Does it feel safe to ride a bike in Las Vegas? Or what about in Reno or Carson City? Do we have maybe fewer deaths on bikes because it's really that much safer, or because people are too afraid to ride bikes on our roads? What does Nevada need to do to make the roads shareable with bikes? And what are you seeing out there? Is it as dangerous as some say it is? Bike safety is on our minds as May is Bike Safety Month. What do you think? Call 702-258-3552. That's 702-258-3552. Email son@knpr.org. And on Twitter, we're at KNPR News, and we are Nevada Public Radio on Facebook. Now, to start us off, Dr. Clarence Dunnigan is the emergency room medical doctor at Mountain View Hospital who has seen the results of all kinds of bicycle accidents. Dr. Dunnigan, welcome to the program.
Well, thanks for having me.
Dr. Dunnigan, what do nurses, doctors, and medical staff typically see when somebody comes in with a serious injury from a bicycle collision? I mean, how much more damaging is that kind of accident than, say, a car-to-car accident?
Oh, with just the mechanics involved. Obviously, if you're a 4,000-pound car, hits somebody, especially somebody that is not wearing a helmet, they can have devastating injuries.
What's it look like? I mean, for you, can you tell right away that if somebody comes in and nobody tells you it's a bicycle accident, can you tell from the types of injuries that it was a bicycle car accident versus a car accident?
Sure. Well, we're Mountain View. We're a community hospital. We are not a trauma center. We're vying to become one. However, we still get trauma that shows up by private vehicle. When somebody gets hit by a car, usually if they get run over, obviously it's a devastating injury. Many of those are dead at the scene. If they arrive at the department, if they're not wearing a helmet, they can have severe head injuries. They can have crush injuries to their thorax. Open fractures to arms and legs. So it's very serious injuries.
Do you see a lot of them in Nevada? Is our bike accidents really a big thing in Las Vegas?
Yes, they are. I know Aaron can give us more. Aaron Breen can give us some more specific numbers. But when we were preparing for this, I think there was 8 fatalities last year of people cars hitting cyclists.
How many?
I believe 8.
8. Well, that's just fatalities. What about serious injuries?
Oh yes, we see lots of serious injuries. I know the trauma centers, UMC and Sunrise certainly see a lot of these.
We're talking about bike safety as May is Bike Safety Month. And in recent years, especially as more Nevadans think about doing something good for the environment, people want to be able to ride their bikes more. But is it safe? And how can it be made safer? If you're out there as a bicyclist, what have you seen, or what's it like right now to ride a bike in Las Vegas or Carson City, even Reno? If you're not a bicyclist, do you see those on bikes riding safely on the roads? What are you seeing? Call 702-258-3552. That's 702-258-3552. Email son@knpr.org. And on Twitter, we're at KNPR News and Nevada Public Radio on Facebook. Now, before accidents ever get to a hospital, police are typically on the scene of serious bike accidents. Andy Walsh is a deputy chief at the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. He has seen a lot in a few decades as a cop, including the ugly results of vehicle-bike accidents. Deputy Chief Walsh, welcome back.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
I want listeners to be able to see what you've seen. So I don't want you to gild the lily here. When accidents happen between bikes and vehicles, and you're the officer that arrives, typically the first one, what's it look like?
Yeah, these are horrific scenes for the first responders from the medical community and from the police community when they get there. People are just torn to pieces, like Dr. Dunnigan said, these are very heavy moving vehicles that traveling, in excess of 45 miles an hour usually, like at most of the roadways in our town, 35, 45 miles an hour. And then they strike a human being. So you have the physics of that. And then, our bodies are not meant to withstand that. So, we've seen disfigurement, dismemberment, head injuries that you just can't fathom, the instant swelling, and then you have the grief of the families that immediately arrive at these scenes. And so they're horrific scenes, not just from the physical damage, but from the anguish and the mental state that you see in the people when they see their loved one, in pieces laying in a roadway.
That does sound pretty gruesome. Now, I imagine in almost all accidents, the driver of a car or truck is uninjured, but they do have to deal with the aftermath of what they had just been a part of. Describe that, how these, I guess, the motorists feel or what they go through afterwards.
Yeah, in 2018, we did have 8 bicyclist fatalities, and just using that as an example, in 4 of those accidents, the motorist was not the person that was at fault. So the bicyclist was violating some rule of law and caused the accident. So that is not an easy thing for someone who's just driving down the road and then have a bicyclist come through the windshield of their car, so or bounce off the hood of their car or hit the back of their vehicle. So, they're just in shock. I mean, they're not in a mental state prior to this accident being mentally prepared for this to happen. So then the shock of it hits, and then the aftercare of that. And, we've started a program at our traffic section that involves bringing people out. And we've always had trauma intervention specialists, and we've had different people that come out, but now we're even trying to leverage the houses of worship and the different members of the religious community in our town that can help people both from the bicyclist, the family side, and from actually the motorist side as well.
And again, I want you to go back to something. Speaking of fault, really, in a lot of these accidents, not just fatals, who's in the wrong? Is it drivers or cyclists? Do you have a percent?
Yeah, so last year, 50% of the cyclists were at fault. We know for sure one cyclist was intoxicated. We're still waiting on some lab results and for some others. But even with our pedestrian fatalities, that number is upwards of 70% of the pedestrians that are at fault in these accidents. So you're right, the drivers of these in these instances don't always see this happening or prepared for this to happen to them when it happens. And it's a tough thing to actually illustrate, because it's hard to tell family members, that their loved one's not coming home and that they're at fault for pedestrian rules or bicyclist rules.
702-258-3552 is our number. We're talking about bike safety, as May is Bike Safety Month. What are you seeing out there if you're a bicyclist or if you're a motorist, if you're driving? Who's doing what on the roads? Again, 702-258-3552. And joining us now is Calvin Homan. Welcome to the program.
Hi, how you doing?
Good. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm a cyclist, and I always bike with a group of people. We see a lot of accidents or maybe other stuff in firsthand. I think the first is sometimes is the car. The driver in the car almost needs to know that give us some space, give the cyclist some space. I ride in Enterprise or maybe Anthem a lot. Some car just zoom by us 40, 50 miles an hour. If you don't give us space or you just get your hands or you're looking at your cell phone, you would hit us, and then we certainly have fatality. And also, on the other hand, is the cyclists also themselves. Because some of the cyclists they knew, or some of the cyclists they think they don't have to obey the law. So I see some cyclists it's a yellow light. They try to catch the yellow, but you won't be as fast. So just stop, just wait. When you stop in the stop sign, look at both sides, and then education, and I think it's also another important thing. Educate the driver, give space to cyclists, educate the cyclists, obey the law, and just if you be cautious about cyclists, give them space, and then everyone can be home safely.
Yeah.
I always say one thing is you're in a car, we are in a bike, we are both someone's husband, someone's brother, someone's kids, and then if you everyone needs to be calmed down a little bit. Everyone will be happy. They will be home safe.
Calvin, thanks for that call. Actually, I want to ask Deputy Chief Andy Walsh about some of the bike laws. Because I see a lot of bicyclists, I live in downtown Las Vegas, riding on the wrong side of the road. This could be pitch black, dark areas. They're riding toward me on my side of the road as I'm driving towards them. And I've often wondered, are the rules of the road different for bicyclists? Or what are some of the laws regarding bike riding in Las Vegas?
Simply put, bicyclists have to follow the same rules as a motorist and a pedestrian. So if they're traveling on a roadway, they're subject to being required to stop at stop signs and red lights. And a lot of it, too, is just, in this day and age, is just using some sense, like the caller said, being aware and just paying. You could be right and still get hit by a car. That's the problem is, people think because they're right, then, well, I can go do this. But you have to remember what you're challenging in those situations is a vehicle. So, but it's basically the easiest way to remember it is what a car can do, a bicyclist can do. They can't drive against traffic. They can't go through red lights. They can't go through stop signs. They have to yield where the signs allow them to. And then on the motorist side too, the caller is right. Motorists need to provide that 3 feet of space.
That's a state law now.
Yeah, and just it was a great call because it really illustrates. There's two sides to this issue, and it's the motorists and the bicyclists that have to really work together if we're going to have an impact on this.
One thing people notice is if a police officer pulls over a driver, they have the red lights, there's a driver up there getting a ticket, everybody slows down, and it puts that thought in their mind. Do you ever ticket bicyclists?
Yes, we do, and it's probably one of the things we get the most flack over is when we cite bicyclists and pedestrians. And, it is a challenge because we do have these events occur, and of course we're law enforcement, so our first trick in the tool bag is going to be enforcement. But that's there's some social components to this as well and education components that we really need to put more focus on than just we always say in law enforcement we can't cite or arrest our way out of the problem, and it's clear with this as well. But I would think that in those stops and in those interactions that the officers are having very candid conversation with folks too when we do stop cyclists and when we stop motorists as well, or motorcyclists or pedestrians for those traffic infractions that they commit. The individual doesn't see it. They don't think it's going to happen to them. And hopefully that we take every officer that makes one of those stops realizes the value in that stop is a moment where you can educate somebody on the dangers of what they're doing.
Our number is 702-258-3552. That's 702-258-3552. Or you can email us at son@knpr.org, on Twitter. We are at KNPR News, and we are Nevada Public Radio on Facebook. What do you see out there as somebody who rides a bike or as a driver in Las Vegas? Do you see bicyclists in town obeying the rules of the road most of the time? Or if you're a bicyclist, do you see motorists really kind of ignoring you? Or again, 702-258-3552. Joining us now from Las Vegas, Jim, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much for taking my call.
Sure, yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to note that what I see is I see a lot of bicyclists in construction zones where they really don't need to be there. The area is already coned down, and it's hard enough to get traffic through there one way or the other, and then sooner or later you've got someone on a bike generally just enjoying themselves. It's obvious that they're not headed any particular place, and it really adds to the problem. And I just want to know where the common sense is. It just seems
I'm gonna put that question. Thank you, Jim, to Erin Breen. She's the Traffic Safety Coalition person at UNLV, and Erin. I know of what he speaks. A lot of people go through, for instance, Project Neon every day. Bicyclists go through the same thing. It's a headache going through that. It probably will be for several more months. But do the rules of the road apply? Should bicyclists avoid that stuff? Give me your advice. What do you see?
Well, could you see me rolling my eyes?
I did see you rolling your eyes.
Here's the deal. They have every right to be there. They have just as much right to use the road as the person operating the car. We would want them to do that safely, but when you're in your vehicle, and I always say as you're driving down the street in your air-conditioned couch, casting aspersions on the people that are traveling the most vulnerably on the road, you're the one that could more easily go out of the way than the person on the bicycle or their 2 feet. And I think some compassion is due. So unless there's a sign that says no bicyclists allowed, they have every right to be there.
There is a lot of impatience in drivers here.
Yes, very much.
A lot of that has to do with the growth. We have a very fast growth, again, 6th highest in the nation. Mm-hmm. A lot of people are new here. They don't know the roads as well, where they're going as much. So the impatience is there, but cyclists also are somehow in some of the same boats. They'll take their bike. Sometimes they'll take up a whole lane of road, or they'll be in the position where a car should be. Can they do that?
I was going to say, so let's talk about that. Yes, they can.
They can take up as much space as a car, or do they have to be on the far right of the road?
Well, so there's a new law in the state of Nevada that says they must remain in the right lane. But yes, in most instances, they are allowed to take the entire lane. And the bike law in the state of Nevada says that you're supposed to, if you're approaching a cyclist, you're supposed to move into the adjacent lane next to you. If there is not a lane there or it's too crowded, then you're supposed to pull as far to the left as you can to give them at least 3 feet. But technically, we don't have a lot of 2-lane streets in our city or state for that matter. And so you're supposed to pull into the lane next to you to give the cyclist the entire lane. And unless there's a sign prohibiting it, they have the right to do that.
Our number is 702-258-3552. We're talking about bike safety in Las Vegas. Joining us now, Pat from Las Vegas. Welcome, Pat.
Hello. A comment on just what she was talking about. Like downtown, it says right on the street, bikes can use full lane, right lane. It makes drivers angry, and they get right behind you and honk real loud, and I have to pull over and get my nerves back together. So it's not a good idea to do. Also, short and sweet. If you ride on the wrong side of the road, you're gonna get hit sooner or later because the drivers don't look your way that you're coming. None of them do. So if you're in the habit of doing that, you will sooner or later get hit. Other than that, I love the bike lanes we have here in Las Vegas. I ride a bike every day, and I just enjoy all these new bike lanes they're putting. The biggest thing, last thing I'll say is I get more flats than that's frustrating.
Right. So, Pat, those bike lanes, the painted green lanes, they're not separated from traffic. Do you feel safe on those?
I do, especially when they're painted green. It's easy for the driver to see, and I noticed there's a lot more buffer lanes being put down. It's fantastic what Las Vegas is doing.
Okay, thank you for that call. And Breen, I'm going to let's go through some statistics about bicyclists, accidents, that kind of thing in Nevada. First of all, male versus female accidents. Are more men involved in accidents than women?
Far more men are involved in every crash, especially bicyclists. So in the state of Nevada, we have 4 trauma centers, and so the database for those 4 trauma centers tells us that 82% of the bicyclists treated in trauma centers in the state of Nevada were in fact male. So it's definitely a male issue. Our helmet.
Why do you think that is?
Well, I think overall men are bigger risk takers, which is why it doesn't mean that more men are riding bikes. But I think anecdotally looking, when you look and see who's riding a bike, it really is more of a male sport. And as sports go versus commuters, again, what we see most often, especially in our critical injuries and our fatalities, those aren't what we would call an avid cyclist. They're people who are using their bicycle to get to work. So they might be doing first and last mile and using transit. I think one of the most fascinating things to me is that the RTC buses carry just as many bikes a month than the bus system in Portland, Oregon, which is totally a bike-centric city.
That's
so we have
fascinating.
a lot of cyclists. I think people don't realize that.
So from 2009 to 2013, some statistics from websites online all say that bicycle deaths nationwide increased 15%. But where do most accidents occur?
Meaning on a city street versus...
Yeah, on city streets, where do they occur? At intersections, on straightaways?
I would say where bicyclists are concerned that it's overall. I don't know that you would see them more at an intersection. We're seeing a big increase in bicyclists being critically injured and killed by a left-turning driver. So that could be at the intersection. But at the intersection, I would think that you're more aware as the bicyclist. So what we're seeing is people pulling into driveways, pulling into side streets. So not big intersections, but just making a left-hand turn and not seeing that bicyclist is coming towards them. The other thing that unfortunately we're seeing a lot of is cyclists using the sidewalk. And when you're on your bike on the sidewalk, you're no longer considered a vehicle, and you can go legally in whatever direction you want, which I think we should desperately be trying to change.
You know, what's interesting is we just had a call from a man who said the green painted bike lanes are like a haven for him. He loves them. At the same time, we're seeing a lot of people, I think a lot of us see it, of bicyclists on sidewalks. So I don't think a lot of people see those green lanes as very safe. My question is, are they? Is there any statistic or way of telling if those green lanes are safe for those on a bike because they're not separated from traffic?
Well, what that caller also added, and he's completely correct, is that now they're putting in those buffers. So you see those white striped buffer lanes, and you're right. There's no raised, we don't have bike facilities where you have a raised cycle track yet, but I hope that they're coming to Las Vegas. They're in a couple of different plans so that you'll see that the cyclist is actually 6 inches above the traffic on the street. Those have proven to be very, very beneficial. So hopefully they're coming here.
Our number is 702-258-3552. We're talking about bicycle safety in Las Vegas and throughout Nevada, where it sounds like people on bikes is really, really growing here. Joining us now from Las Vegas is Brian. Welcome to the program.
Hi, good morning.
Hi.
You guys have covered a lot of topics that I was going to talk about already, especially safety. One big thing I see people doing is riding their bicycles through crosswalks. That's obviously not safe. But if you guys could, as far as I'm just talking Las Vegas as a whole, you see bicyclists, slow down, move over, just like if you see a cop, which nobody does, slow down, move over, just give us a little bit of space. I bike a lot on Boulder Highway. I go downtown. I live on the east side a lot. I go up and down Boulder. So the bike lanes go in and out of the bus lane. That's kind of a sketchy thing. But other than that, it's pretty safe. I would like to see the bike lanes, more visible, whether that's with paint or raised bumps or some sort of buffer like you guys were talking about. That'd be really nice.
All right. Well, thank you for that comment. Dr. Clarence Dunnigan, when people come into Mountain View Hospital with injuries, do you typically know where they were? Do you find out that information about how the accident occurred?
Yes, certainly. If the EMS brings them, we're able to get all that information, and that's obviously vitally important to hear. The mechanism of injury and how fast the car was going, et cetera.
Yeah, where typically, Mountain View is sort of in the northwest. It is a bicycle type area from what I've seen. Where are people getting injured? I mean, where are they riding when they're getting hit by cars?
Well, I think as far as the avid cyclists, I think certainly people that go out towards Red Rock and do the Red Rock Loop, there's a big shoulder there, so I think people feel safe on a bike. However, we have a lot of tourists that are going out there and are distracted, and if you get hit out there, that's a very high speed area. Everybody's doing 60 miles an hour as they're driving their car.
And Aaron Breen, Red Rock, at one time there was talk of creating an extra bike lane around Red Rock. That's sort of, I don't know what happened to it. Is it not going to happen?
Well, there is a path that they put in. There was a lot of talk back and forth whether cyclists wanted it or not, if they wanted to be removed. And I think finally the answer was yes. So there is a trail through there. And I think that there's always improvements being made. I think that the speed has also crept back up. There was a big fight to keep the speed down on the loop, and we may need to revisit the speeds that cars and trucks are traveling through there.
Who monitors that, or who's the law enforcement out there?
NHP. That's considered a state highway.
And does NHP drive through there and monitor quite a bit?
Absolutely. I think that's an area where you're always going to see troopers. It's also a really, really highly trafficked area. And your caller that just said that he rides Boulder Highway, the whole idea is that you can go from Boulder Highway through downtown and straight out to the Red Rock Loop. And it's part of the new redesign of Boulder Highway to make that even easier. So we have high hopes for that redesign project.
702-258-3552 is the number. We're talking about bike safety in Nevada. And joining us now from Los Angeles is Ryan. Welcome.
Hello.
Hey, go ahead.
Hi. I'm from Las Vegas.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry about that.
All right. That's all right. So, sort of you guys have touched on it, but my thing is at the intersections, and I see it a lot, especially in the school district areas. You're supposed to walk your bike across the street, or is it acceptable just to ride on your bike across the street?
What is the law?
The law says that you are supposed to get off of your bicycle and walk it across the crosswalk. And I always like to point out, especially to children, why that is. Because you're going so fast in that crosswalk, you can't stop for a car, and a car doesn't have time to see you react and stop. So, unfortunately, the most recent bike fatality in the state of Nevada was, in fact, a bicyclist who had gotten off their bike in Reno and was walking their bike across a crosswalk and was killed by a DUI driver.
So wait a minute. You're coming up to a four-way intersection.
Uh-huh.
You get to the intersection. Uh-huh. You have to stop your bike, get off the bike, and walk.
Walk it across. And here's what I say to cyclists all the time. I don't even know if Deputy Walsh knows this, but we have a class. So in Clark County, if you get a ticket as a pedestrian or a bicyclist, they'll waive all of those fees if you come to our class. I get a lot of cyclists in that class. And so the law in the state of Nevada says you have to remain in the right-hand lane, except for the last 200 feet if you want to make a left-hand turn. 200 feet on a 30-mile-an-hour street, 200 feet is not enough to get across 3 lanes of traffic to make the left turn. So I always tell cyclists, get off your bicycle, walk it across, wait, and walk perpendicular to take a long time to make your left turn, because that's the safest way to get where you're going.
Have you ever seen a bicyclist, let's say in downtown Los Angeles, where there are a lot of intersections, get off and walk their bike?
So here's the difference in downtown. And so you have a completely, it's the most ideal situation for being a bicyclist, a pedestrian, and a motorist in Clark County, because downtown's footprint was pre-World War II. It's short blocks, it's narrow streets. It's a much safer place to ride. So I think that especially cyclists, I think that they're pretty aware of their bodies. So yes, I have actually seen them get off their bike and walk it across the opposite direction to make their left-hand turn.
Thank you, Ryan, from Las Vegas for that call. Our number is 702-258-3552. And joining us now from Las Vegas, Todd, welcome. Hey, Todd, are you there? Todd is not there right now. We're talking about bike safety. May is Bike Safety Month in Nevada. And joining us now from Las Vegas, Jacob, welcome to the program.
Hey, good morning. How are you doing today?
Great. Go ahead.
Okay, right out of the gate, cyclists are outmatched 60-1. It doesn't matter how you slice and dice the law, 3 foot here, 4 foot there. I put a lot of responsibility on the side of the cyclist. One thing brings your actions into play very quickly if you start looking at mangled body parts around cyclists. It's a very dangerous environment. What I'd like to see is I don't want to see cyclists on the roads sunrise and sunset. And I'd also like to see us do something about cyclists in the city during rush hour. Those are basically my comments.
Aaron Breen, anybody here, can you outlaw bicyclists during rush hour? But it does seem like a dangerous proposition to be taking your bike on the roads here during rush hour.
So, I have people say to me, what was someone doing in a crosswalk after dark? Living their life. So I understand that as motorists, we're used to further, faster, better. We're used to people staying out of our way. We're used to being in charge. And that's part of the problem. We own part of this. Just we should be every bit as careful as the cyclist. I don't think that you can ban anyone at any time from public roads. Give yourself enough time to reasonably get where you're going and quit being in such a hurry, no matter what kind of road user you are, because that's how we wind up with fewer lives lost on our streets.
Our number is 702-258-3552. Joining us now from Boulder City, Julian, welcome.
Yes, well, glad to be on the show.
Great, go ahead.
Oh, well, many years ago, I rode a bicycle for a few short weeks to work to try to save energy, and very quickly found that it was going to be my death, so I stopped. But one of my pet peeves, now that I live in Nevada, I was back east, is we here in Boulder City, we've got some wonderful bike lanes and bike trails. But yet I'll be driving down the road, and here are one or maybe two or three bicycles in the middle of the lane, and there's only one lane, and to their right is a 10-foot wide bike lane. Is that legal? It certainly isn't very considerate on their part. I don't see any excuse for it. Then, of course, when you try to blow the horn to get them to move over, they, give you the Polish salute or whatever you want to call it. It's just unnecessary,
Aaron Breen?
I would have to say that if there's a bike lane, that's where the bicyclist belongs. And I don't know the answer to legally if that is true or not. I know we've talked about trying to pass a law that says if there's an improvement that by law you have to use it. But I don't know that currently on the books that there's anything. I don't know. Deputy Walsh, could they give him a ticket for taking the lane?
Yeah, yes. I think what you said earlier about them required to be to the right is what we would use in a situation like that. But again, it's just not a safe scenario one way or the other. If you're the bicyclist, and even if you are right, but you have some room to keep yourself safe, then you should take advantage of that space. It's your own safety. You don't want to take on a car.
By the way, there was a bill in the legislature that would have demanded bike helmets of people in the state. That did die in committee.
It did.
This session, so it's not going to happen. There is no law right now requiring people to wear bicycle helmets. And I also want to mention that Mountain View Hospital, a week, May 18th, I believe, is going to have an event where they're going to be handing out free bicycle helmets. And we'll have more information about that at knpr.org. Our number is 702-258-3552. Joining us now is Bill, who is from Oregon. Welcome, Bill.
Hey, you've got a great show there, and I'm an avid cyclist. A couple of points I wanted to make out. There are some people cycling that are friends of mine that ride two abreast, which takes up too much room, and that's not a very good practice. But what I really want to talk about is visibility and how important it is for cyclists to use a headlight. More and more people are noticing this on the highway. The headlight is more important than the tail light because most accidents don't happen from the back of the bicycle. They happen from the front or the side. And so a bright headlight is important. It's also important that the light not be blinking, but it be solid, whether it's the headlight or the tail light. A blinking light is deceptive to a driver. It's difficult to judge distance and perception of where that vehicle is going if the light's blinking. So use a solid headlight, and if it's dark or if you're in a place where there is a lot of other traffic, a tail light is appropriate as well.
Terrific.
Bright clothing and helmets. Big on helmets.
Thank you for that call. And Aaron, before you go on, I do want to mention he said a lot of the accidents happen from the front, so it's a state law to have a light on the front of your bicycle.
It is.
But I have an email here from a Lynn Kowalski. She's a medical doctor. She said about 2 months ago, I was riding my bicycle in the bike lane on 159 near Red Rock when I was hit from behind by a car. I did not sustain serious injuries, but I learned from the experience that cyclists are hit all the time. There's no reason that cyclists should not be able to enjoy this beautiful ride without fearing for their lives. We desperately need a separate bicycle path for cyclists and runners. Aaron, before we go, we have about 20 seconds. Give me one technological advancement that's coming that will make cycling safer in Nevada?
Helmets that explode like a airbag around your head, so you wear them like a scarf, and they can tell if you're getting a crash, and they explode around your head to protect you.
And that's coming.
It is. They already exist in Europe, and you could buy them. They're just expensive right now. But yes.
I wish we had more time. A lot of thanks so much for our callers, and thank you so much to Aaron Breen, Andy Walsh, and Dr. Clarence Dunnigan. Aaron Breen is the coordinator of the Traffic Safety Coalition at UNLV. Andy Walsh is a deputy chief of the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. And Dr. Clarence Dunnigan is the emergency room director at Mountain View Hospital. Mountain View Hospital on the 18th is having a bicycle safety event, and they will be giving out free bicycle helmets.
From 10 to 1 that day.